Hey college football fans, Matt Osborne here again with Fifth Down Football. We're here today to talk about our preseason All-American list for the 2011 season. We're going to start today, we're going to do 2 videos, but the first one we're going to look at our offensive All-Americans for next year. So we're going to start at the quarterback position. Should come as no surprise. We have Andrew Luck from Stanford. Now, Luck was a second-team All-American last year. He was the runner-up to Cam Newton in Heisman Trophy voting. Many people thought if he came out this year, he'd be the number 1 pick of the Panthers, but he decided to come back, said he wanted to get his degree. So he'll have another year there with the Cardinal. He threw for 3,300 yards last year, 32 touchdowns, only 8 picks. Now, he does lose Jim Harbaugh and a couple of his leading receivers, but, Luck has proven he has a lot of talent, and it's kind of hard not to put him as your All-American, knowing what kind of potential he has. Moving on to the running back position, our first running back was another first-team All-American last year. That's LaMichael James from Oregon. He ran for over 1,700 yards, had 24 total touchdowns last year, and we all know about Chip Kelly's offense coming back there. He's definitely going to get a ton of carries with the pace that they run. Just a really speedy guy. First-team All-American last year, first-team All-American in 2011 as well, definitely. Our second running back might come as a little bit of a surprise. It's Marcus Lattimore. He'll be a true sophomore at South Carolina. Last year as a true freshman, he really helped rejuvenate the South Carolina offense. Definitely at least rushing-wise. He rushed for a little under 1,200 yards, had 17 touchdowns in his first year. Was a big get really out of South Carolina for Steve Spurrier. And I think he might see even more carries this year. Definitely going to be more ready to take the pounding of being the every down back at South Carolina. I think he's really poised for a breakout year this year. Now, we have 2 wide receivers. Neither of these are going to come as a surprise to anybody. They were both first-team All-Americans last year, both from the same state. The first is Oklahoma State's Justin Blackman. Last year as a redshirt sophomore, he actually did something that was quite an amazing feat. In every single game that he played, he had over 100 yards receiving and a touchdown catch. Just a big body guy. He, decided to stay in school and not enter the NFL draft. So, he's ready to do big things because that Oklahoma State offense is going to be potent next year. Then the other receiver from the same state, Ryan Broyles out of Oklahoma. Broyles decided not to leave, for the NFL. He led the NCAA last year. He had 131 catches, 1,600 yards, and 14 touchdowns. Landry Jones' favorite target. He's a little bit of a smaller guy, but he's a really good route runner, can really do good things with the ball once he has it in his hand. So he's another guy he's definitely going to be a focal point of the OU offense next season. Our tight end, we're actually staying in conference again. We have Michael Egnew from Missouri. He's another first-team All-American from last year. Now, Egnew actually didn't start his first 2 years at Missouri. He only had 7 catches, actually, his freshman, sophomore year combined. And then last year, he kind of exploded, had 90 catches. Blaine Gabbert's gone for the Tigers, but they have a young quarterback named Franklin who's going to come in, and he's really a lot of the people are comparing him to Brad Smith, so I think that Agnew's still going to get his catches this year. Now moving on to the offensive line, our first lineman is offensive tackle out of Boise State, and that's Nate Potter. Potter kind of reminds me of old Boise State offensive tackle Ryan Clady from a couple years ago. He was a first-round draft pick. Potter's ranked as the number 1 offensive tackle for the 2012 NFL draft. He was a 3rd-team All-American last year, so he's going to kind of continue the tradition of having strong offensive tackles at Boise State. Our first guard for the All-American team is Barrett Jones out of Alabama. He was just a sophomore last year. He made 3rd-team All-American as a sophomore. He's a prime candidate to maybe come out of school early next year and be a first-round pick for the 2012 NFL draft. And he's going to be blocking for Trent Richardson. So his running back's going to put up good numbers, going to make him look really good. So he's a guy who I think is pretty much a shoo-in to get first-team honors this year. At center, this might have been the easiest pick for the offensive line. We have Mike Brewster from Ohio State. And Brewster's is going to be a 4-year starter next year. Came in, started all 12 games as a freshman. His sophomore year, he was named to the Remington watch list. And last year, as a junior, he was actually the only non-senior to be named a Remington Award finalist, which is the best center in the country. So he was the first team all-conference last year. There's actually a lot of strong centers in college football last year, which is what kept him from making one of the All-American teams. But he's, by far the best returning center in college football for the 2011 season. Okay, our second guard for our preseason All-American team is from Stanford, and that's David DeCastro. Now, Stanford had quite a few guys who made first-team All-Conference honors on the offensive line last year. I think they actually had 3. And DeCastro was one of those. He was just a redshirt sophomore last year, so he'd only had one previous year of experience, but made first-team All-Conference. And he's another guy, kind of like the other guard, Barrett Jones, who very well could leave school early and be a first-round pick for the 2012 NFL Draft. And our last offensive lineman is a tackle from BYU, Matt Reynolds. Reynolds was a guy who a lot of people thought was going to leave school early for the draft, decided not to, decided to come back to BYU as they moved to independent status. He's played a lot of games in his career for BYU. He was a first-team All-Mountain West selection last year, and he's rated actually number 3 offensive tackle for 2012, but he's going to be blocking for some good players in the BYU offense. Jake Heaps is a big-time quarterback. They're returning 10 starters on offense, and I think the last 5 games of 2010, they were averaging 42 points a game, so he's going to put up some big numbers for the offense. Lastly today, we're going to look at our kicker. From Georgia, we have Blair Walsh. Walsh was 20 out of 23 last year on field goals attempts. He had a long of 53. Just a guy who's real accurate, has a big leg, playing with a Georgia offense that actually might struggle at times to get touchdowns, so he's going to have a lot of opportunities to kick some field goals. All right, guys, that is our 2011 preseason All-American offensive players. Be sure to check us out, like always, www.fifthdownfootball.com, and we'll have the defensive unit coming up soon.